You do not want to drop the soap when you are in a Florida State female prison. And the reason why is because hello, my YouTube friends and family. Woo, baby. Okay, so if you don't know me, hi y'all. My name is Jen. I don't know how you found me, but I'm so glad you did, because hopefully you will enjoy my video. Hopefully we will vibe, and hopefully you will subscribe and like, okay? But if you are returning, I love y'all. Y'all already know why. I'm not going to explain in every video. Refer back to one of the old ones if you want to know the whole reason why I say I love you and why it's not a cliche thing. I'm just saying randomly, okay? Anyways, if you do not know, I did 10 years in prison. I've been out about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And basically I just do a prison story time channel where I tell stories about prison, give you information that you might find entertaining or educational, and tell you about true crime stories of the women in which I was incarcerated with. Like the ladies you see on Snapped in 48 Hours and all that. Yeah, I talk about them, but in real life, not the stuff you see on these TV shows where they try to have all these dramatizations and make things sound exciting, and it's really something different, okay? Okay, guys, so let me just preface this by saying, little disclaimer, okay? Every prison is different. I say this a lot. Florida state prisons are different from Virginia state prisons, which are different from California state prisons. Every prison is different. Male and female prisons are different. And then there's a difference between federal prison, state prison, and county jails, okay? I know that a lot of that can be confusing. So today is going to be interesting because I know that a lot of you guys have not been to prison. Hopefully you haven't even been to county jail. And there are a lot of things that people that have never been incarcerated assume about prisons, assume about the judicial system, just assume about the whole entire process that are totally incorrect. And a lot of time it's based off of what you see on TV, what you see on series, even what you might see on reality shows that are heavily edited and dramatized, okay? So let's go talk about some assumptions and clear some shit up, okay? Let's go. Today, we're going to talk about some juicy assumptions that you guys might have about prison, but in all reality, that's just stuff that comes from Orange is the New Black and all these shows that are about prisons, or even reality shows that really isn't the way it is. So let's get into the first assumption, okay? This is a funny assumption. I don't know why it's funny to me, y'all, but it is, and it's even funnier because it's true, okay? But let's just say it. Let's put it out there. Hopefully I don't get any hate for this, but there is an assumption that there are no people of Asian descent, no Chinese people, no Japanese people, no Filipino people. I really hope these are all like Asian by... There are no Chinese people in prison. There are no Japanese people in prison. There are no Filipino people or Vietnamese people in prison. Now, is there like one random here and there that come through? Yes, there's a few random people of Asian descent that come through sometimes. I don't know if it's because, you know, they're brought up culturally different, and usually the ones that come through are very Americanized, like they were raised here, they were born here. But it really just goes to show that nature versus nurture is a thing, and if you are brought up in a certain environment, in a certain culture, in a certain country, that it's very possible you might not do the wrong thing. I mean, you don't see any like Chinese Ted Bundys running around. Like, there are not Asian people in prison. I promise y'all, I shit y'all not, I'm not even kidding. While I was incarcerated for those 9.5 years, there was one, I repeat, one person of Asian descent the entire time. She was there for something crazy. Like, I think she killed her husband, so she had like a long time. But she was the only person of Asian descent. So there are not Asian people in prison like there are other people of ethnic descents. And they are not even a minority in prison. They're just damn near non-existent, okay? But anyways, moving right along. The next assumption is that everybody is segregated and divvied up into racial groups or religious groups or any kind of gang, okay? So you have to like link up with somebody right when you get there, because if you don't, you won't have protection and you will not be able to make it. People will try to come after you and people will come after you and try to hurt you and things like that. Now, let me say this, because I always tell you guys this: every prison is different, every state is different, and federal and state prisons are two different types of prisons, okay? I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I've seen it in a lot of movies as well. The men's prisons are much different than the women's, and I think there's a lot more of that in those settings. But in Florida state female prisons, there are not gangs. I'm telling you, like straight up right now. If you go to prison in Florida and you're a woman, there's no gangs. There's no gang activity. There's no groups that are divided by religious beliefs, okay? Yes, you might have some groups that are segregated by race, and it's usually just black and white. It's not like Hispanic and anything else. It's just black and white, and that's it. And yes, you might have some people that hang out with each other more than others, but a lot of people are comfortable with what they live and their cultural experiences. And if you think that this group of people, because they are another race, may not understand you or where you came from as much as this group of people, then you might be more comfortable in a setting like prison where you don't know anybody, going with the race that is the same race that you are, okay? And that's just the truth, and that's understandable. And you know, you don't have your family or friends in there, so you might want to go where you feel the most comfortable. But if there's a group of black girls over here and you're a white girl and you want to go talk to them, you can, and there's not going to be a fight that breaks out. There's not going to be anything crazy that happens. And if you are a black girl and you see a group of white girls hanging out and you want to go over there and talk to them or eat lunch with them or hang out with them, you can, and there's not going to be a fight that breaks out. It's allowed. Nobody thinks anything of it. There is a little bit of segregation in the black and white community as far as females go, but it's not something that's really serious. That does not happen here. That's not what it is. You're good, okay? So the next assumption, guys, is that you should not talk about your case. Don't talk about your case. Don't say anything about your time. Don't tell people when you're going to go home. Don't say anything about your case, because number one, people will try to get information and then use it against you. And number two, if you tell people when you're going to go home, they could try to fight you or do something in order to stop you from going home, just to make your life more miserable or whatever their reason is, okay? Now, regarding the first one, which is don't talk about your case because you don't want to give anyone details that they can use against you. This is true if you have something active in the courts. So if you have a long sentence and you're putting in an appeal because you want to go home early, or you're trying to fight your case using something else like a federal habeas corpus, then yes, you do not want to talk about your case, because then somebody could write the district attorney's office, write their attorney and say, hey, this person talked to me about their case. They have something in the court and I know something about it. Then they could subpoena that inmate to come to court and say what you said. So if you plan on fighting your case, or if you have a long sentence, either way, if you have more than a few years, don't talk about your case, because you never know when it's going to bite you in the ass. Everyone in prison is looking out for themselves, and everyone will stab you in the back when you're not looking to get themselves some time knocked off, okay? Don't talk about your case for any reason. Next thing, when you are about to go home, do not tell when you are going home. Do not give your exact EOS date. EOS date is an end of sentence date. A lot of times people will say, don't tell your EOS date. Don't say it, because people will try to take it from you. That means that if people know that you go home on Friday and it's Monday morning, they might try to fight you or do something to try to get you in confinement, to try to get your days taken, your gain time taken. Gain time is time that you've earned every month by being good and not getting in trouble. Every month you could earn up to 10 days by not getting in trouble, which are deducted from your sentence. Now, once your sentence, which starts at 100% time, once that sentence has hit 85%, you can no longer gain days. So you have to do 85% of your time no matter what. But Like for me, example, I had a 10-year sentence, so I could do up to 8.5 years, and then I could be eligible to go home if I don't get in trouble. Well, say that I've gotten my 8.5 years, and I'm due to go home at 8.5 years because I've earned all my gain time. If somebody knows that and I'm about to go home soon, they could fight me or do something to me, plant contraband in my locker, or whatever the case may be, to get me in trouble so that I don't go home, and so that now I've lost some of my gain time and I have to go home at 9 years instead of 8.5 because they just took 6 months of my time, right? Let me say this. That is something that I used to hear that would happen back in the day, like in the early 90s, maybe in the late 90s. That used to happen a lot. But prison has changed so drastically, and the only people that would really want to do that to you at this point is somebody that you're in a physical and intimate relationship with in prison. So if you have a girlfriend in prison, she might want to try to keep you there longer and therefore try to take some of your time. But it really doesn't happen for any other reason. And if that's the case, 9 times out of 10, your girlfriend knows your date. She knows when you go home. So if she gets mad at you or if she doesn't want you to leave and she tries to fight you or something like that, she knows your date. It's not like you're going to walk around and not tell her when you go home. You know what I'm saying? So basically, that's kind of like it's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of obsolete. You don't really have to worry about not telling people your date because most of the time nowadays in prison, people celebrate their date. They're like, yes, I've got 52 in a wake up. I've got 13 in a wake up. I've got 6 in a wake up. That means you've got 6 days. Then you wake up and go home. Okay. Most people talk about their date and spread it all over the prison any chance they get. Not saying your date or your EOS is really not a big deal anymore, but as far as your case, you don't really want to talk about it, okay? On to the next assumption. Don't be too friendly or talk too much to the officers, okay? The COs are people that are around you all the time. You might interact with them. You might, see the human side of them, and they might see the human side of you, and you might talk to them and have a laugh here and there, and that's okay, or so you think, right? But in all actuality, guys, it's not. This assumption is correct. You don't want to be too friendly with the officers. And the reason you don't want to be too friendly with the officers is because anytime somebody gets caught doing something or gets searched or gets caught with contraband or any kind of drugs or anything on them, they're going to scan back and start thinking of who could have told on them, who could have said something, who had a motive. Most of the time in prison, everybody is so paranoid about who's trying to stab them in the back that they never think that this officer may have just coincidentally searched my locker that day and may have just coincidentally found this contraband or this cigarette or these drugs. No, that's not how it goes. No one ever thinks that, even if that's really what happened. So everyone's going to scan back and think. And say you just got in an argument over a shower with this chick, right? And now this chick, 3 hours later, gets her locker searched and they find her cigarettes in her locker. Well, guess what? In that 3-hour time frame between the time that you got in an argument with her and the time she got searched, you happen to go to the officer's window and ask for toilet paper. Well, while that little interaction happened and you asked for toilet paper, the officer cracked a joke because that's the same officer that you have a little rapport with and sometimes you crack jokes with. It's just a little innocent joke. And everyone saw you at the bubble laughing with the officer, right? Or talking a little too long. Well, guess what? If that inmate remembers you standing at that bubble, at that window, talking to the officer about toilet paper and making an innocent joke, then they're going to think, oh, you know what? I got in an argument with her about the shower. Then she was at the window laughing with the officer, pretending to get toilet paper. She was telling on me when she was doing that, and now she's told them that I have contraband in my locker. Here the officer comes to search my locker, and now I'm going to confinement. Guess what? Now that inmate thinks you told on her. She's going to have it out for you. And when she gets out of confinement, she might come try to fight you or might come try to hurt you or might try to get you in trouble by planting something in your locker. Okay? That's how it goes. If the inmates think that you are too friendly with staff or that you talk too much or that you could be a snitch, this is going to put a huge target on your back. This is not something you want to walk around the prison system with for multiple months or years on end, okay? This could get you in a lot of trouble and could get you seriously hurt. If you are talking to the COs too much and you are too friendly with them, then other officers, other staff members, other administrative staff could see this and think that you have a personal relationship with this staff member. And if they think that, you will end up going to confinement. You will end up being placed under investigation, and you will end up getting shipped, all because you're having regular communications with staff. But in other staff members' eyes, it's just a little too close and a little too friendly. So that is another reason you don't want to get too friendly with staff, because it could really, really get you put through some mess that you don't want to go through, all for no reason. Now, you can innocently talk to them here and there if there's a lot of people around and people can hear what you're saying, but don't always be in their face. Don't always be talking to them. Don't always be whispering in the little window flap, because people are going to eventually assume that you're telling on somebody or that you've told on them, and that could lead to a lot of trouble. You could really get hurt behind that. Okay, that's an assumption that you don't want to be caught up in. But yes, do not be too friendly with staff, okay? Okay, moving right along. If someone gives you something and they say it's free, do not believe them. Nothing is free in prison. Even if someone says it's a nice gesture, nothing is free in prison. Everything has to be paid back, and you will essentially become someone's biatch if you accept something for free and you won't even know it. I don't mean the weird gray area between like, hey, you're my friend, we hang out every day, we talk every day, and I'm giving you a soup because I'm having dinner and you don't have anything in your locker, okay? Of course, people that are close to you are going to look out for you. They're going to help you. They're going to try to do things for you if they see that you're without, okay? That will happen, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, so we're going to just speak solely on if someone gives you something and they say it's free, they say it's a nice gesture, soup, give you a bag of chips, give you some of their bleach, whatever it is. Prison is not like the free world where you can just jump in your car and drive to Target or drive to Walmart or wherever and pick something up to give it back to somebody. Loans you something, you can bet your bottom dollar, you can bet your ass off that that person will not only expect you to pay it back in some way, shape, or form, but they will probably require more, okay? The interest, the multiple things that will come after. The 1 for 2, because if somebody in prison loans you 1, they're going to expect 2 back, okay? That is something that's very common in prison. If someone loans you 1 soup, they want 2 back, and they want it within a week, okay? If somebody in prison loans you something and you don't get money, they're going to come to you within the week, the month, the 2 months, whatever it is, and say, hey, don't you work in laundry? Yeah, well, guess what? I really need a t-shirt, but I don't have one. You think you could get it for me? And you're going to reflect back on that soup, and you're going to reflect back on when they helped you and you didn't have anything to give back, but now you have something to give back. And if you don't give it back, they're going to throw it up in your face like, damn, you can't help me out. I fed you when you were hungry. You can't even steal me a shirt. You might be scared to steal that shirt from your laundry job because you don't want to go to confinement or get in trouble, or you're just a shitty crook. But guess what? They're going to remind you that they fed you when you were hungry and now they need something in return, and you're going to feel either obligation to do it or you just made an enemy for the remainder of your prison sentence because you didn't look out for them when they looked out for you, okay? So yes, in prison at all times, unless it's your friend or someone you have a bond with, try not to accept anything, because if you think about it in the free world, how many times do you accept something from somebody that you think is a genuine gesture of love or kindness or whatever, and then 6 months down the road, you'll be in an argument with them over something and they'll throw it up in your face. That happens all the time in the free world. So imagine how much worse it is in prison where people don't have access to everything. It's like that, but on steroids. It's a million times worse. Do not accept things from people in prison if it's not a friend, because you will be paying it back with interest, okay? Nothing is free. There's no free lunches in prison. Moving right along. There is a smell. Prison smells. There's always a smell. It's like a hospital and you can't get rid of it. Okay, let me say this. Yes, there are some places, some areas that have a distinct smell, but I never noticed a smell, a prison smell. That was until I got in trouble and went to confinement for 67 days, and the things that were packed for me while I was in the confinement cell, which one of them was some of my laundry from my laundry bag. Some of that laundry had been in there because it was seasonal for months, okay? Like my sweatshirt, for example, had been buried at the bottom of my laundry bag for months. Now, mind you, this was in a plastic bag that was then in a mesh laundry bag. So I thought it was pretty well insulated. But when I went to confinement, it was freezing cold in these cells. So I pulled out my sweatshirt to put it on, and it smelled like a crayon box. You moms out there know what I'm talking about. If you open a crayon box and smell it, take a whiff, it smells like crayons, like that waxy crayon smell. Everything in my laundry bag smelled like the crayons, okay? I did not know this. That's the best way I can describe it. But let me tell y'all this. Check this out. When I came home and I brought home all my legal paperwork and pictures and few things that I wanted to take home with me when I EOS'd, I took it all out of the envelopes, and now I was in my home setting, like where everything smells like home, like whatever your home smells like. It smells good, right? At least I hope so. I hope y'all's home smells good, not like mothballs. But anyways, when I took all of my stuff out of the bag, it smelled like damn crayons again. It's not so much that it was a nasty smell, like a yuck smell, but it was a smell. There's a smell in prison. Yes, there is, okay? And this leads me into my next assumption, which is it's always freezing cold in prison. This was more so the county jail. The county jail was freezing cold. And, you know, of course, this is like a hospital. I assume they do it to keep the infection rate down, to keep, you know, people from not getting sick and all of that. But the county jail was freezing. The prison, on the other hand, let me just debunk this assumption for you right here. This is a myth, okay? It's not freezing cold in the prison. It's hot as 2 rats in a sock, okay? It's hotter than Lucifer's balls. It's hot, baby, in prison, okay? I have told y'all this in other videos. There's no AC in Florida state prisons. There are only a few dorms. And when I say a few, I should be saying a couple because it was only 2 up until very recently. Now it's 3. There's only 3 dorms at Lowell main unit that have AC. The rest of the dorms are dorms that have windows about every foot or so, and then little shitty fans that belong in your child's room because they're that small, that blow like this. It's like at that speed, like that's it. That's all they do. It's horrendous. It's like 100 degrees at all times. You walk out of the shower and you wipe off the water and then you start sweating the sweat. You never dry off. So is it freezing in prison? No. Hell no. Hell no. It's hotter than hell, okay? County jail's freezing. Prison's hot as hell in Florida, okay? Debunk that myth for you and moving right along. The next assumption is that people really don't change in prison, okay? They just learn how to do it better, become better manipulators, survive while they're in there, and that's pretty much it. But other than that, they really don't learn or change, okay? Now, this is like a double-edged sword. You have to make a decision when you go into prison that you want to do better, and there are some things extended to you in which you can get a vocational skill, something like that. But all in all, you still have to survive in there, so you have to learn the ropes. You have to learn how to do things better. If you don't, you're going to get trucked, you're going to get mopped, you're going to get ran over, and you're going to do your time very, very hard. So yeah, you do have to learn to survive and manipulate and work the system, but you have to make a decision for yourself. Do you want to change or do you not want to change? The next assumption is that everyone that goes to prison is going to have to go through some sort of initiation. When you get there, find the biggest, baddest person, fight them, do the best you can, get into a knockdown, drag out, and then nobody will mess with you, okay? So, this is kind of true to an extent, okay? You don't need to get to prison the first day that you get there, look around the yard or your dorm, find the biggest, baddest bully that you can possibly find, and just run up to him and start swinging, okay? You don't need to do that. That's a good way to get in trouble. That's a good, well, That's a good way to get yourself sent to confinement. That's a good way for people to think that you're batshit crazy and get put on some medication. And it's just a way for people to decide that you are unpredictable and they don't want to be around you because they don't know what the hell you're going to do because you have a couple screws loose, okay? So no, do not do that. You don't want to do that. You're not required to do that. Nobody's going to come up to you and try you or try to take your cookies or try to, you guys know the word I'm saying that YouTube can't say. Nobody's going to try to do anything to you right away the first day. So you don't need to worry about that. But what will happen at some point in time, and it's usually fairly early on, is you're new. You're a newbie. Just like you're a newbie at your job, you're a newbie at your school, you're a newbie in your neighborhood. It doesn't matter. People are going to watch you. They're going to observe. And if somebody thinks that you are weak or you are a pushover or you are not going to stand up for yourself, then at some point in time, you're going to get tried, okay? And it's not going to be you're going to get tried, sexually or anybody taking anything from you. You're going to get tried by the shower or the telephone or the place that you have in line. Someone's going to try to skip you. Someone's going to try to bump your shower. And if you don't know what that means, you can watch my What Really Happens in the Shower, or you can watch my prison fights video. I talk a lot about showers. And when this happens, you're going to be required to do one of two things. Either let the person skip you or let the person bump your shower or let the person sit down at the table where your stuff was already at and they've moved it to the side. You're going to let them do it and therefore become their doormat for the rest of your prison sentence because they're going to do it every time they see you. They're going to make you wait in line, not make you wait in line, like ask you to, but they're going to wait for you to get in line somewhere and be there the whole time. And then they're going to run up and skip you and they don't have to wait in line because they see you doing it and you're their little duck, okay? If you don't know what a duck is, it's like the little biatch. You're their little biatch, okay? So you can become this person's doormat for the rest of your prison sentence if you don't stand up for yourself, or you can choose at that moment to stand up for yourself and win, lose, or draw, you are going to have to do whatever the situation calls for and you're going to have to go out with the bang. And they're going to leave you alone and everybody else that sees it or hears about it is going to leave you alone as well because they know that you're not a pushover, you're not a pussy, and no matter what happens, you're going to stand up for yourself, so they're not going to bother you for the most part, okay? That is a situation in which, yes, you need to stand up for yourself, but no, you don't need to walk into prison the very first day and just go balls to the wall crazy, finding the biggest, baddest bully and fight them, okay? No, debunk that myth, and please, y'all, if you ever get in trouble, don't do it, okay? Don't do it. Take my word for it. Don't do it. Okay, there's someone bigger and badder than you, and if you try to pick the biggest, baddest bully, you're probably going to pick them, and you're going to get your ass dragged, okay? Don't do it. Okay, y'all. So the next prison assumption that we're going to talk about is that when you get to prison, at some point in time, you are going to get, your cookies are going to be taken, okay? Listen, guys, your cookies are safe. This is a myth. This is totally untrue. Nobody's going to try to, with a broomstick, nobody's going to try to force you to do anything you don't want to do. Most of the sexual encounters in prison, whether it be with staff or inmates, is by choice, is consensual. The biggest lesbian, stud, dyke, whatever, however you want to refer to a person that is homosexual in prison, is not going to come up to you the first day if you're pretty or if you have a great body or anything like that and just say, okay, baby, I'm going to take you into the bathroom and, do something to you. It's not what happens, okay? In the movies, maybe it happens, but your cookies are safe when you get to prison in real life. No one's going to try to do anything to you. Yes, maybe there's the one occasion randomly where there's a bad person that, does bad things to people, just like in the free world, but it's not a thing. It doesn't happen. It's a myth, okay? Your cookies are safe, okay? Okay. The next assumption is that the food is slop. It's crap. It's horrible. It doesn't change and it's just garbage, okay? Yes, this is true, you guys. This is true. Now, when you are used to and conditioned to have crap served to you on a tray every day, you'll find ways to tweak it and make things taste better. You'll bring stuff from the canteen like seasoning or cheeses or things like that. Or some people even take their food, they steal it, they sneak it back to the dorm, and they'll cut it up and make something else with it, like put chips or ramen noodle soup with it, something like that. So anyways, If you do not do that, then yes, the food is just gross. The food is given on a monthly menu. So there's a menu that every month is exactly the same for that week. And then it's rotated the next month. So on this month, you might have every Tuesday this and every Wednesday this and whatever. But there are a couple staples that don't change, and that is coffee cake and chicken. Okay. Chicken night was always Tuesday night, and it is something that people really came out for. And coffee cake was always Wednesday and Saturday mornings. And those two things are kind of just known. They're loved. They're the closest thing you get to home taste, and people are going to go out for that. So besides the chicken and the coffee cake, everything else is pretty gross. It's pretty raunchy, and most of it's like, I don't know. I guess it's edible because you eat it, but is it really even food, or is it like garbage? Okay? Yeah. The food, no go. Okay, y'all. So the next prison assumption: everyone must make a shank and keep it on you at all times because you never know when you're going to get jumped. Okay. False. You do not need to make a shank in a Florida State prison. Again, refer back to the every prison is different, men and women is different, but in a Florida State female prison, there are no shanks. I've never seen a shank. I never saw a shank. 9 years I was there. There are no shanks. There were no shanks. People in prison will most likely get into a fight for the reasons that I've stated in my prison fight videos, okay? And most of them are domestic. Here's that video right here, whatever side. But most of the fights are domestic, and the way that people fight is by popping a razor blade and cutting, by putting a lock in the sock and hitting, by getting some sort of chemical like bleach or something that hurts and splashing, or by putting anything heavy like a bar of soap into, a pillowcase, a sock, whatever, and hitting you with it, okay? That is how most of that happens. You don't need to walk around with the shank. Nobody's going to come stab you in the back. I never even saw stabbing. I only saw cutting, and most of it happened in the face, okay? You don't need a shank. Moving right along. The next assumption I have for you is that people are separated into their crimes. So you have a dorm for people that commit sexual crimes. You have a dorm for people that are murderers. You have a dorm for people that have like lesser crimes, like maybe a drunk driving accident or something like that where nobody got hurt, but they caused, damage to property or whatever. But no, let me tell you guys this. You could literally be there for, defrauding your job, right? A crime where you didn't physically hurt anybody, you stole something, okay? And you could be sleeping between somebody that murdered their children and somebody who, their child, okay? You could be sleeping in front of somebody who murdered their grandparents, and somebody could be at your feet that literally drove their car over their entire family. Like, it does not matter. You're not segregated. The only thing that segregates you is a medical condition or a job that you may have. You are not segregated at all unless you live in a dorm that has cells, in which case you have to be in a cell with somebody who is compatible with you as far as their crime and as far as their behavior. Yes, in that case, you will be in a cell with somebody who has the same type of violent or physical tendencies that you have, but you could be in a cell right next to two people that murdered their family. Like, it's only the cell that applies, okay? It's not the dorm. The dorm can have every type of crime, and you could be in there for defrauding somebody or stealing a car, and you're going to be right there with them. You could be next to some real wackos and some real sickos, and there's nothing you can do about it because everybody is sprinkled around the prison evenly. There's no segregation based on crime, which can really suck, but hey, it's the truth, okay? The next assumption is that most of the drugs are brought in by corrupt officers. And let me tell you guys, yes, this is true. I wouldn't say it's 100% true. And I have how drugs get into prison. If you guys want to watch that video, it's right here or right here. I'll get it one day, I promise. But most of the drugs, I would say about like 75% are brought in by corrupt staff members, period. It's not just officers, it's staff members, period. Yes, that is true. And the last assumption I have for you guys is this. Is a quote that you're going to hear all the time, and rarely do we even know what it means because it doesn't really apply to female prison, but I can't speak on the male. So you've all heard it, and it's always joked about. Don't drop the soap, okay? Yes, this is 100% true. So you do not want to drop the soap in a Florida State female prison, but it's not for the reason y'all thought. Now, let me debunk the myth about the real reason people say that. Yes, don't drop the soap is used, but it's not for that reason. It's for the reason that if you drop the soap, it's assumed that somebody is going to come while you're naked, vulnerable, and bent over picking the soap up and put something in an orifice that you don't want, right? Well, women don't have that anatomical device to be poking each other. But, you could use objects. Either way it goes, in a Florida State female prison, nobody's going to try to stick anything in you or do anything to you while you're bent over picking up your soap. It's just not going to happen, okay? Doesn't happen, never happens, it's unheard of. And so if someone says don't drop the soap, it literally is in your best interest not to drop the soap, because when you drop the soap that you just paid $1 and some change for, and it slides across the floor that has blood and urine and hair and hair shavings and dirty skin cells and all the stuff that's coming off the bodies, because the showers are all open and connected, your soap has now slid down a slide of all that mess and gunk, and you're going to pick it up and use it? I think not. If you just bought it that day, that means that you wasted $1 and some change. And if you don't have the money to buy a new soap, or you can't get to the store, you're going to have to pick it up and try to shave some of it off and reuse it, which is really gross in itself, because it's not your shower. It's all the showers, at least 8 showers open at the same time. Mind you, there's not a lot of cleaning products that are used in showers. So you don't want to drop the soap. You will be using dirty soap and having to repurchase it. And money is a hot commodity that you don't get a lot of in prison. So you don't want to drop the soap and have dirty soap. And that is the only reason that you would not want to drop the soap in prison. Okay? Okay, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry that it's one of the shorter ones, or I'm happy for you that it's one of the shorter ones. I don't know, but I know some of you like those and some of you don't. So I just wanted to put something out there for you guys, because I know that assumptions are a real thing. I know that a lot of times people assume things that are completely wrong and illogical. They don't happen in prison, and guess what? I'm here to debunk those myths for you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, this is the time right here. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. I love you guys, and I will catch y'all in the next video, okay? See you later. Bye. Okay, this is too much. Like every single time. Oh my gosh. If you would have... What in the fuck was that? Okay. If you would like... Or, so, what, Tug?
That's not what it means.
No, I know that, but this is how I do my video. I'm going to go into that now. And she says some really funny stuff. Why did I just roll my neck like Shanae? State is different in that. Tug? And then I went and I said, and everyone will bite you. Horse. What? Excuse me. I didn't need to just do all that. That was not necessary. That was not necessary. I did not have to do that and all that. Like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. Give you information in nature versus some kind of drugs, in which I was on 3 different occasions. I have to just tell y'all something real quick. I saw this thing that said, sorry, this is a total rabbit hole, but oh well, y'all love me and I love y'all, so let's go down it together. If you ask a man to lift up 3 fingers, just say, hold up 3 fingers. It says that most men will go like this, okay? Like this. If you ask a woman, it says most women will go like this. So I don't know, just a little fun fact. Go ask your husband, your boyfriend, your sugar daddy, or whoever, to say, just say, baby, lift up 3 fingers. Just lift up 3 fingers for me and see if they do this. And then ask a woman and see if she does this. Or just ask yourself, what do you do? It's kind of interesting because I did it and it actually happened exactly the way they said it would. Nonetheless, I'm done! It's like a whole filming studio, literally. Shanay, nay, 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 nay. These things happen. But let's talk about